Welcome back to the expansion of consciousness. I'm your host, Jason Medlock, and thank you for being here today. We have a fabulous guest, Susan Sophia Hegamyer will be with us today, and just want to welcome you guys, and I want to welcome the new people, new listeners, watchers that are new to the expansion of consciousness, and we're a podcast that's basically we explore the subconscious mind. We explore consciousness. We try to understand how we can change the way we think. We can reprogram the mind for success. We learn a lot of different things on this show from coaches, from different types of practitioners that work in a number of different modalities. But again, I want to welcome you guys here today. In today's podcast, again, we'll be speaking with Dr. Sophia Hegameyer, and she's a doctor of behavioral health, integrated medicine practitioner. And she's a medical hypnotherapist with over 30 years of experience and research. Dr. Susan has dedicated her career in creating profound healing programs rooted in sound neuroscience and epigenetics. During the pandemic, she harnessed her extensive experience to develop 5 robust online programs, and they are Getting Good Sleep, Mastering Challenging Times, Managing Pain, Healing for Mental and Addiction, and Spiritual Awakening. And that mental health and addiction healer, I'm very interested to talk to Dr. Susan about that one. But the programs leverage sacred music, Tibetan overtones, and ancient rhythms to transform brain wave, heart rate, and breathing, guiding individuals to access regenerative states, reduce stress, and foster emotional resilience. We're excited. I'm really excited because sound therapy is awesome. It works. I've done it before. I cannot wait to dive into this. But yeah, I'm excited. Dive deeper. I want to dive into this work. I want to explore how these transformative tools can help you connect more deeply with your mind, your body, and your spirit. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring on Dr. Susan. Hi, Dr. Susan. How you doing?
Hi, you can just call me Susan. How are you, Jason?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. And it is great to have you here, Susan. And, obviously you've had time to really work on your craft with developing these different sound training techniques. And obviously you're in hypnosis as well. You do a lot of other different things. I want to know what got you started on this trek and how did you, with all the training and all the experience you have, when the pandemic hit, it gave you time to work on something new. Tell us what happened.
Well, because I'd had all that background over so many years and I was on social media a lot, probably like everybody, and I was realizing how stressed out people were, and people seemed to be revealing a lot about their mental health and how they weren't really moving forward. I think the pandemic dialed up everything for people. And I realized that the programs that I had been doing could be taken and reformatted for online so that more people could be able to use them.
Mm, mm. So,
Yeah.
okay. So, what inspired you then to begin working with the sacred music, like the Tibetan overtones and the ancient drum rhythms in the 1990s, I believe? But how did those early experiences shape the 3, make sure I'm pronouncing it right, the 3 Metley program?
Malete.
Mallet program. Yes,
Yeah,
sorry.
Malete. No worries. Nobody, even me, I just don't pronounce it right sometimes. um, Originally, I've always been interested in consciousness and how we could accelerate our learning, but also um, I always felt sort of outside of the culture and didn't buy into some of the ways that we have historically looked at healing. And so in the 1990s, I became a studied hypnotherapy, but also I had a friend that was traveling the world, and she was studying with shamans and shamanic drumming. And so I started becoming exposed to those rhythms. And then I did a lot of research on how historically, if we go back into all of our culture, when we lived more in villages, there were always drums in almost every culture. And the drums were used to bring the group of people together in harmony to create entrainment, which means that there's a resonance within you and the sound that also resonates with the other people. So it creates this kind of unification, and it is calming and restorative and also expansive and healing, because the sound now, there's been research probably in the last 10 years that show that when we move out of our ordinary states of consciousness, which you probably already know this, that we are unraveling trauma and we're releasing cortisol and stress. And then we're also building emotional and mental regulation, releasing depression and anxiety, and then the epigenetic part, which is for physical and mental healing. So I love all that part. So back to how I got started. I also, now I look back and I go, oh, this is so kind of odd. All these things were coming together. I had another friend who traveled to India and Nepal almost every year, and he was buying up all the antique Tibetan bowls, and he was always out of the country. So he would ship the bowls to me in these huge containers, and they would get dropped off on my street, which was sort of insane for an 18-wheeler. And I had them stored here. So I had hundreds of these bowls. And then I'd start taking them out and listening to them, and I could hear the different sounds. And then I also studied with Jill Peirce, who works with vocal harmonic overtones. And so I learned, you learn how to do it yourself. And I actually have a CD with some of that recording of my own voice. And then, so I started taking the bowls with me to different places that I was working. And I developed different systems and ways to use them. And people would tell me things that they just never would say, which is, oh my gosh, I remember something from 20 years ago, and now I feel I can release it and I feel healed. People who had cancer, or people who, at that time I was working with cancer and immune compromised illness patients. And then I was also working with addiction and mental health diagnosis, trauma, and the people in recovery. So I also brought and did certain systems with those people, and people love those programs, and they had transformational experiences where they shared things that they wouldn't share otherwise. And there was a lot of healing. And so one example of that is the place where I worked was residential for the trauma and mental health diagnosis and addiction. And so people are coming from all over the country, and I would never see them again. So several years later, after this woman went through the program, I was at a graduation ceremony for a master's graduation in another town, which is about 4 hours from here. And this woman was at the graduation, and she sat down next to me, and I was shocked because I hadn't seen her. You never see these people. And she very quietly said, I just want you to know you saved my life. So, I mean, there are things that were so powerful that happened with the different work that I was doing. And a lot of people, the other therapists and the other people that were managing the programs, they had no idea. They just said, we don't know what you're doing, but we love it. The patients love it. Keep doing it. So that's kind of how I got, I kept going. And I did also work with Dr. Andrew Weil's integrative medicine students too. So, yeah.
And when you talked about working with someone and creating these sounds. I was a big follower, not was, I still am a big follower of Dr. Jill Armand and the work that she's done with a lot of the sound therapy stuff, sound therapy work that she's been working with. And but I was reading all the information that gathered from your website and some of your programs, and the history behind the Greek muses, and incredible, just incredible history. And I was wondering, could you help us understand how the concept of those three Greek muses, Malete, Aeode, and Meneme, how did those influence the development of your three Malete program? And obviously, it focuses on the brainwave, the heart rate, and the respiration.
Well, I'd say going back further, we know that the triangle is a building block of the universe. And so the three muses are reflective in that. And so they represent memory, practice, and sound or vibration. So those three things coming together and how they resonate inside of us and create different neural pathways that help us shift into healing and accessing, kind of feeling more calm and centered, and also expansiveness. One of the pieces that's really important to me is that because we're in this time of transformation, part of our journey is trusting our own intuition. And when we connect to those states, we're developing that deeper self trusting. And what I notice with people in trauma or people who have a physical health diagnosis, a lot of times that's very disruptive, or maybe all the time, it's very disruptive to our own sense of trust, about trust in ourselves, trust in the outer world. And so it helps us to rebuild and reconnect to that, and also to unravel the trauma that is often, or almost all the time, the underlying cause of those concerns.
Yeah, and I work with um, trauma patients, uh, PTSD in particular, and it's a delicate situation, and how you're going to approach it. But sound therapy has been something that has been very intriguing, and I know that the right frequencies can even destroy a cancer cell, but we really don't see it in mainstream medicine, using sound frequency to destroy different diseases, and it's a shame, but we know this work, and just from talking with you, we know this work works. I mean, this technique using sound, we know that it works. It's been well documented by people like you and other practitioners and researchers with this. But with your work, the work that you do with trauma addiction and chronic illness patients, have you been able to understand the specific changes in their brain waves, maybe their heart rates, maybe respiration? Have you been able to observe how these have changed through sound healing?
I didn't hook people up to any machines that would register that. But to me, what is noticeable is, so when we do regular meditation,
Mhm.
often what I found is that people have, they either have a resistance to it, like, oh, I'm not going to do that, or it could be religious, or that it's too woo woo, or that they also tried it and they feel like they failed and they couldn't do it, which is why I like the sound, because it was just through listening that those heart rate, brainwaves, and respiration changed. So the way that I could tell that they did have a change is that people would say, wow, that was 20 minutes. That felt like 5 minutes. Or that was 20 minutes. It felt like it was an hour and a half. And that perception of time being different is a way to know that they changed their breathing rate and their heart rate and the brain waves, because those change all at the same time. One doesn't trigger the other, it's simultaneous.
I'm a transcendental meditator, and that
Okay.
the fulfillment I get once I reach transcendence has been amazing. I'm not on blood pressure meds anymore.
Oh,
Yeah, I am
yeah.
so much more of a clear thinker once I tried TM, and I said, you know what, now I need to really just get in me some classes and just really go all in. I was doing guided meditations at first. I think we all do that when we're just starting to understand how to meditate. So I was doing that. I was on Gaia, and I really liked the guy who I was following on Gaia. And then there was a lady who used sound bowls in her meditation, and I was like, oh God. So I did that for a while, and then I found transcendental meditation, and after I did that for maybe 6 months, I did not need my blood pressure meds. So it really helped me regulate myself internally, and my thoughts. So I was really excited about that.
That's awesome to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Yes. So guided meditation is a gateway, right?
Yeah.
It's a gateway meditation.
I know. You've mentioned the relaxation response as a marker for effective transformation. Can you elaborate on that a little bit for us on what happens maybe neurologically and psychologically when someone starts to enter this state through your program, the three Mallet program?
Uh, well, it's what I was saying before, is that there's a simultaneous shift in the relaxation response, where what I noticed is that people become, and you may notice this with transcendental meditation, that when you start out, it might take 10 minutes or longer to kind of feel this relaxation, where there could be a feeling of warmth, where the body, there's better circulation. And sometimes with practice that can be quicker, where there's a shift over. And it the way that I experience is that if my kind of thoughts are up here, I feel myself kind of relax down into my body, and things kind of move away, like the mind that's going all the time, like that. And the relaxation response, it actually happens with many things. It can be with doing artwork, where you kind of go into it and you lose a sense of time. So it's something that, and it can occur by walking a labyrinth as well. So there's different ways that you can access it, but it is very transformative for us, releasing trauma and also connecting to those healing states. Like you said, you were saying that your blood pressure medicine, you didn't need it anymore, and you felt like your thoughts kind of changed. So those are some of the things that people notice, and that's profound.
It's very profound, and even mindfulness, the practice of mindfulness also helps you just have a clear perspective on decisions you need to make, and it further supports transcendental meditation or any type of meditation that you use. Just being mindful, being aware of the breath, being aware of the air, aware of objects. This heightened sense of awareness also, like I was saying, it aids meditation modalities to help you keep yourself centered, peaceful, calm. And from that space, you can teach the audio healing process works much better. Hypnosis works much better. If you're trying to change your mindset in the mindset course, it works much better from this space of peace, tranquility, and quietness. And then that's just to piggyback on what you were talking about.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So I think historically, all of us have trauma in our, if we go back a generation, or in our family, ourselves. So part of it is also releasing the trauma, whether it's spoken or secrets, it doesn't matter, so that we can access those other states of consciousness. I wonder about if we release our trauma and we teach our children that, and then we learn to use intuition. If you look at all the Nobel Peace Prize winners, most of them, and a lot of artists, often they talk about those moments where they had a dream or they trusted their intuition. So it's not unique to any one population, but it's what guides people and gets us. Einstein had that thing that you can't solve a problem with the things that are causing the problem. So you have to go beyond that to get a different solution. So when we use our intuition in different ways, then we can solve problems that we haven't been able to solve, which is exciting to me. And that there's also research that shows that when we do meditation and we get out of our ordinary consciousness, that we're able to see patterns or recognize patterns. I don't want to think people are saying see, but see kind of inwardly, that we would not normally be able to see with other things that help us, that are intuitive processes.
I totally agree. Using both of those practices, mindfulness, meditation, we know that it moves you to a space where you're able to think clear, you're able to just regulate emotions and things like that. But it also, like you said, you can hear, you can see, you can, differentiate between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. They're two different minds that are working, but leveling your emotions, leveling the the just the state of being of the body, and how you or absorbing this outside noise from the world really affects your ability to be able to differentiate, either live subconsciously or live through the conscious lens, which is what we see every day. But I'm interested to know, how does the the Mallet process, the healing process, how does it interact with the principles of neuroplasticity? How does it how does it interact with neuroplasticity and epigenetics, and how can these interactions potentially alter someone's healing journey?
Well, when we access those other states of consciousness, we are creating neurogenesis, which just means that we're creating new brainwave connections. And originally, for many years, people thought that our brains developed when we were like 18 or 20, and then we were toast. We couldn't learn anything else. We were kind of stuck. And now we know that with certain practices, we continue on in our brain development, which is really exciting and means that it's not only good for people who have certain accidents or an injury, but also that we have the ability to expand our consciousness and grow and continue to develop.
Mm.
So kind of going back to, if our children or our children's children grew up doing meditation, how that would be expanding their consciousness. And also, the other thing I think about is that there's these predictions that because kids have cell phones, and they have had them for so many years at a young age, they have a lot of anxiety because of the research of using those cell phones and being on social media all the time. And if they're using ways that develop their consciousness, they're not going to have all the anxiety and the stress. We're not going to be raising these adults that are stressed out. So getting the word out to people is really important for adults and other young adults and teens and kids too.
Yeah, and it helps. I know it helps with chronic illnesses as well. Just being able to um, use modalities like the three Mallet process, but also hypnosis does the same thing. It helps you create new neural pathways,
Right.
different ways of thinking by connecting deeply with the subconscious mind. And I've always found that fascinating because when I was doing my research on consciousness and I wrote my first book, Empowered by Consciousness, that was one of the main things that I was learning through the Dolores Cannon Quantum Healing Hypnosis School. Um, we talked a lot about creating new neural pathways, and Dr. Jose Silva talks about the same type bombardment, not bombardment, but the same type of strategy of reaching the subconscious over and over and over, driving this new message. And our brains are malleable. They will it changes. We're able to make these shifts in our life, but we have to really, really believe in what we want, or it won't work for anybody. I don't care how skilled you are. If the person is not in agreement, then the subconscious won't accept. So, but your programs that you've set up, you have them you have them set up where they're adapted to the online space, and you created all this during the pandemic. So, share with us what has been the key challenges and the successes in bringing this sort of transformative healing experience into the digital format.
Well, I had to learn all of it. Yeah, I had to learn all of the video and audio portions. So that's definitely a learning curve. I did do the audio recording of the instruments in a studio. So fortunately, I didn't have to learn that. And I think for me, it's always the marketing. The marketing part is I'm not a
Mhm.
marketer. And so that's been definitely a difficult part that I would say is part of the process. Partly because the programs that I developed, so the pain managing pain program, I did research through Arizona State University with pain patients when I was working in internal medicine, and the physician that I was working with specialized with pain patients. And so I did research with them, and basically each of my programs are very different in terms of who they would be marketed to. So the marketing piece has been challenging to decide, like, which one is more important at the moment.
We're in the same type of business, and I definitely know what you mean. It's just it's a certain client that understands the benefit of your services, and it can get tricky sometimes.
Yeah, so somebody who's looking to manage their pain is going to be a really different person than someone who's listening or interested in spiritual awakening. Those are
Mm,
really different people most of the time.
mm. And you work with individuals experiencing spiritual awakenings, and different types of transformative experiences. How does the three Malete program help people of that vein integrate their spiritual insights with their physical and emotional healing?
Well, part of that program is giving people, I my I'd say my mission directive is I need to give people
Mhm.
tools that they can use for the rest of their life. So then they don't need me. Then they're off on their own and they have the tools. So that program gives people tools so they can manage their energy, because what happens sometimes with people, or often with spiritual awakening experiences, which I kind of break down into three categories: mild, moderate, and extreme. So when people have an extreme experience, it in the modern vernacular, it blows up their system. So their electromagnetic system, their neurological system, their etheric system, they're all like very disparate from how physical life was before that experience. And even when people have moderate experiences, there is kind of our first system that's often noticed noticeably affected is the neurological system, because the neurological system is a physical manifestation of the part of the etheric system. So they get kind of out of whack, and we often need tools so that we can anchor the energy, so we can manage it, integrate it, and then move forward instead of being discombobulated is just the best word that I can think of, that it can be discombobulating. And I would say one of the things that happened to me in one of the spiritual awakening times that I had, I started blowing up all kinds of small appliances. And I'd flip a light switch on and I'd blow up all the, like, I had an office with 10 can lights and they just all explode. And it happened a lot. And so managing that energy so it's not flaring out is important. And also sometimes when people have strong experiences, they will isolate from people. So it gives them a method to anchor the energy. And then there's a system of methods that they go through that helps develop the different parts. So working on compassion, gratitude, forgiveness, and also other aspects of our development that helps to kind of continue to expand ourselves, but also brings the energy in as well, because we're here.
Mm. And Susan, how do you see the whole sound healing modality, in its its connection to the relaxation response, as a evolving force within this broader context of consciousness expansion?
I'm not sure what your question is.
Sound healing is what
Right,
you've developed. How do you see
right.
that? There are no number of modalities that do the same thing, but
Yeah.
it's not dealing with sound. But how do you see sound healing evolving within this whole consciousness expansion field?
Um, well, what I noticed, and I don't know if this is true where you live, but I've noticed in the places that I travel to, for example, sound baths are very popular, and that there's a huge resonance for people with those harmonic overtones that come from bowls. So it's sort of I would consider that a sign that people are very willing and uh, resonant with those sounds. So those are just going to expand. I know that there's now certification for some sound healing to be used with, I think, on the body treatment. So I see that expanding, that it's
Yes.
going to continue. And like you said in the beginning, it's not mainstream, but it's always the grassroots people who are creating mainstream. It just takes a bit.
Mm. Wow. Well, so for someone new to sound healing, what would you recommend as the best entry point into the 3 Mallet programs? Um, and maybe what kind of benefits might they notice immediately?
Well, I would say they would notice a feeling of calm and centeredness, and also that they have something that they can use anytime. They're not dependent on an external person, and that they can go through the steps themselves and gain the process. So in all the programs, there's a guide, so they know where to start and what's next. But the part that's important to me is that we can be exposed to a certain kind of program or ideas. So, for example, gratitude, and then sometimes we do it and then we're done. So when we cycle back into it, there are other layers that come about for us that take us deeper. And when we do the same thing with the sound, is that it deepens within us, just like the transcendental meditation. If you start here, and even if you're going deeper as you continue to use it over time, it becomes a very reliable method, but also that you expand into it and you notice nuances and more refinement. So it is right away, I think people would feel that it was something that they could rely upon, and they could feel the sounds. That you feel it in your body through your ears, but the sound also penetrates through our skin and our bones. So it's very comprehensive.
And directly into our DNA to help affect this change. That's awesome. So, Susan, tell us about what you have going on. Tell us a little bit about the website and the different programs that you have, and share with the audience where they can find you.
Sure, great. Thanks for asking. The website is the number three, and then it's melete.com. And I'm just getting ready to transfer those programs into Audible. So right now they're video files, audio files, and I'm going to put them into complete audio, so that people can access them like they do the Audible format.
Awesome. 3malete.com, 3malete.com. Guys, check Dr. Susan out. She has some great sound healing programs. And, we all know that sound healing works, but you just find the person that resonates with you. But 3malete.com, check it out, 3malete.com. So, Dr. Susan, what else? Is there anything new coming out? Do you have any events planned? Anything that anyone can be looking forward to? Any freebies?
There's free stuff on that website, and then I have a YouTube channel, and there's lots of videos on. I'm in doing spiritual awakening videos, and lots
Awesome.
of content on spiritual awakening content, and also how there's a term now that has come out in probably the last 5 years called intense musical experiences that are transformative, like spiritual awakening experiences. So they fall into that category. So yeah, YouTube, lots of content there. It's the same, 3 Malete Sound Healing.
I'm definitely we'll check it out. I know some people that are listening will as well. We all believe in sound healing. And this is just another fabulous program that's out there, and Dr. Susan has done great work with it. Thank you for coming on the expansion of consciousness. I really appreciate it, and I know the audience does as well. Do you have any last words for the audience?
Yes, I want to thank you for the work that you're doing, because that's helping change our paradigm and give people methods and tools that are transformative, that are not mainstream. And also, you have great energy. So thank you so much.
Awesome. You made me
Very, very
smile.
calming. What did you
It made
say?
me smile.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have some interesting tools as well, but today was your day, and we can go offline at some point and kind of, compare some things that we're doing. But I really like your work. I'm a believer in sound therapy. I did buy that Opus sound bed, but it took so long for me to get it, more than a year. I just wanted my money back. But I
Oh,
know that sound beds are tremendous. Do you have any opinion on these sound beds?
I don't. I have not used them. I only, I don't know how they work, so I assume it's like a low frequency vibration.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And you can, you can put, let's say you can plug in a YouTube self hypnosis audio and plug it into the bed, and it'll get all the frequencies and vibration, and you can feel all of it. So I guess it's a cool thing to have. But I'd rather listen to an audio from an expert who's put together the right frequencies that can affect the body, the DNA, so that you can live the life that you want. But again, Dr. Susan, thank you so much. Stay there. I'm going to do your outro, and I'll come back to you once I finish. So give me one
Okay.
second.
Sure.
Awesome, guys. That was Dr. Susan. She's fabulous, and I want to thank her for coming on and sharing her wisdom and her groundbreaking work on sound healing and consciousness. So suppose today's conversation has sparked your curiosity and you're eager to explore these life-changing programs. And in case, you need to visit Dr. Susan's website to learn more about getting good sleep, managing pain, and all the other transformative programs that she offers at 3malete.com. And that's www.3malete.com. And whether you're seeking better sleep, healing from pain, or experiencing spiritual awakening, these sound healing tools are designed to support you at your every step. And don't miss this opportunity to start your healing journey. And we've had a number of practitioners on this show that have interesting techniques, interesting methods of helping all types of healing. So visit her show links, and it'll be in the show notes for you to access the 3 Malete program and experience the profound effect. And I want to thank you for being a patient listener and being a loyal listener of the Expansion of Consciousness podcast. We're in season 5, and I'm continuing to make sure I bring you the very best, and helping scratch that curiosity that you have when it comes to different ways to improve yourself, to heal yourself, and to become a better person for the greater good of all. And always remember, trust, relax, and discover. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you another time. Good night.